the whole time. So what I will say is find out what you have to do to prepare yourself to be calm. Like when people get reactions out of you, for everything, they know if they do something that you gonna react or you gonna respond, they're gonna keep doing things because they know you're gonna give them what they want. They know you're gonna respond.
What if everything you thought you knew about the fall of love and marriage Huntsville wasn't just about drama getting out of control, but about something deeper, something quieter, something far more personal? Because for years, fans believed the cracks in the show came from the usual reality TV chaos, arguments, breakups, shifting alliances. But now, the woman who once carried the heart of the series is finally speaking out. And her words? They're not just shocking, they're heavy.
That you're trying to grow, if you're saying, oh, I'm trying to be so much better, if you're saying, oh, I'm wanting to get in a better place and have peace, do that.
Melody Holt has broken her silence, not with anger, not with noise, but with clarity. And when she said they ruined it, she wasn't just talking about ratings or storylines. She was talking about something that once felt real, something that slowly got taken apart piece by piece. What she revealed doesn't just change how we see the show, it changes how we see everyone involved. Because sometimes the biggest betrayal isn't loud, it's quiet. It happens behind smiles, behind scenes, and behind closed doors. And by the time the truth comes out, the damage is already done. To really understand how everything fell apart, you have to go back to the beginning, back when Love and Marriage Huntsville wasn't just another show trying to grab attention. It was something fresh, something meaningful. It was about ambition, growth, relationships, and building a legacy. It gave viewers a look into successful Black couples working together, supporting each other, and creating something bigger than themselves. At the center of that vision was Melody. She wasn't just another cast member showing up for screen time. She was driven, focused, and deeply invested in what the show represented. Alongside her then-husband, Martell Holt, she became part of a couple that viewers admired. They looked strong, they looked united, they looked like a real example of love and partnership. But as time went on, that image started to crack.
A wrap for Melody Shari Rogers on Love and Marriage Huntsville. She's officially announced that she will not be returning to the reality TV series. Look, there have been a lot of signs that Melody was done with OWN, that she was done with Carlos, because she unfollowed him. She's said some things on social media, and most recently, she revealed some things about her issues with the show and how it's being produced. And someone, a producer on her show, basically wanted to be her TV manager, and when she said no, she felt as if there was retaliation.
When Martell's infidelity became public, it didn't just shake their marriage, it shook the entire foundation of the show. What once looked like a perfect partnership turned into something painful and complicated. And instead of hiding from it, Melody allowed the cameras to capture her reality. Her heartbreak wasn't edited out. Her emotions weren't covered up. She let people see her rebuild herself in real time. And that's what made her different. While others were playing roles, Melody was living her truth. And the audience connected with that. They saw strength in her vulnerability. They saw resilience in her pain. She wasn't just part of the show anymore. She became the reason many people tuned in. But here's where things started to shift. What nobody expected was how quickly admiration could turn into tension. Because when one person begins to stand out, it changes the balance. And not everyone is comfortable with that kind of shift. At first, it was subtle. Small disagreements, awkward conversations, moments that felt slightly off but easy to ignore.
Well, I got too much I'm doing. I can talk to you and give you some advice, but you gotta want to do it. I can't spend a whole lot of time talking if you ain't trying to grow. You ain't trying to grow, you ain't trying to evolve. I can't even spend a whole lot of time talking to you. And you do opposite of what I say, or you ain't listening. And, and that's just, I've had that situation multiple times in life. And it's like the person has to want to grow and be better and do better. And my hope, what I want for all of us, is I want all of us to grow. Every day is a day and an opportunity for us to.
But over time, those moments started to build. And behind the scenes, things weren't as smooth as they appeared on screen. Melody began noticing patterns, scenes that didn't reflect the full truth, conversations that were cut in ways that changed the meaning, situations where she felt misunderstood, or worse, misrepresented. At first, she tried to brush it off. Reality TV isn't perfect. Editing happens. Stories get shaped. But then it kept happening, and that's when things stopped feeling accidental. But here's the twist. It wasn't just production. According to Melody, some of the real hurt came from people she once trusted, people she laughed with, people she believed were in her corner. Because while she was trying to protect her peace and move forward, others were playing a different game. Alliances started forming, not just on camera, but off camera too. Conversations were happening without her. Narratives were being built that didn't match her truth. And slowly, she found herself in a position she never expected.
Every little thing ain't gonna slide, no. But I'm a whole lot better than what I used to be. Because if any of y'all been following me since day one,
Being painted as the problem. The more she spoke up, the more resistance she faced. If she set boundaries, she was called difficult. If she defended herself, she was labeled aggressive. If she pulled back, she was accused of not being a team player. It was a losing situation. And the hardest part? Watching people she once supported turn against her, not because of real issues, but because it benefited them. Because in reality TV, relevance matters, screen time matters, storylines matter, and sometimes the easiest way to stay visible is to create conflict, even if it means sacrificing someone else's truth. Melody realized that the show she helped build was changing into something she no longer recognized. What started as a platform for growth had turned into a space filled with tension, competition, and hidden agendas. The authenticity that once made the show special was slowly disappearing, and in its place, drama that didn't feel real anymore. But what hurt her the most wasn't just the drama, it was the feeling of being used. She began to feel like her real-life struggles were being turned into entertainment without care for how it affected her. And every time she tried to regain control of her story, it felt like the system pushed back even harder. But here's where everything reached a breaking point. Melody said there came a moment when she realized something simple but powerful. Her peace was being traded for ratings. That's when everything changed. Because once you see that clearly, you can't unsee it. Filming became heavier, conversations felt forced, trust became almost impossible, and every new season felt less like storytelling and more like survival. She described feeling drained, emotionally exhausted, constantly on edge, and it didn't stop when the cameras turned off. It followed her home. Her family started noticing. Her energy shifted. The joy she once had slowly faded, and behind her calm exterior, she was dealing with a level of stress that viewers couldn't fully see. Imagine waking up knowing that every conversation could be twisted, that every reaction could be judged, that every moment could be turned into something it wasn't. That was her reality. And yet, she stayed, longer than most people would. Because walking away wasn't easy. She had built something meaningful. She had invested time, energy, and emotion into the show, and a part of her didn't want to let that go. She didn't want to feel like she was giving up on something she helped create. But eventually, reality hit. Staying was costing her more than leaving ever could. So she made a choice. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. She chose peace. And when she stepped away, everything changed. Not just for her, but for the show itself. Fans started noticing the difference almost immediately. The chemistry felt off. The energy felt forced. The storylines didn't carry the same weight. Something was missing, and it wasn't hard to figure out what it was. Because Melody wasn't just part of the show, she was its emotional core. Without her, the balance shifted completely, and the cracks that were once hidden became impossible to ignore. Ratings began to dip, conversations online changed, viewers started questioning what went wrong, and that's when Melody's words hit even harder. They ruined it. Not in a dramatic, over-the-top way, but in a quiet, honest way that carried more truth than any argument ever could. Because from her perspective, the downfall didn't come from one person leaving, it came from a series of choices. Choices to prioritize drama over authenticity, choices to push narratives instead of telling the truth, choices to protect egos instead of relationships. And over time, those choices added up until the very thing that made the show special was gone. But beyond the show, there was a real human impact. Melody opened up about how deeply the experience affected her, the emotional weight she carried, the nights she spent questioning herself, the moments she felt alone even while surrounded by people. She admitted that there were days she didn't feel like herself anymore, days where the pressure felt too heavy, days where she had to remind herself who she was outside of the cameras. And that's something a lot of people don't talk about, because behind the entertainment, behind the drama, behind the headlines, there are real emotions, real consequences, real lives being affected. Her children noticed the changes, her family felt the tension, and at some point, it became clear that something had to give. And thankfully, it wasn't her identity. She didn't let the experience break her. Instead, she used it. She took the lessons, the pain, the clarity, and she turned it into something stronger, something more grounded, something that belongs to her completely. Today, Melody stands in a different place, not chasing validation, not trying to prove anything, but simply protecting her peace and moving forward on her own terms. And that's something a lot of people don't talk about, because behind the entertainment, behind the drama, behind the headlines, there are real emotions, real consequences, real lives being affected. Her story exposed something bigger than just reality TV drama. She showed how easily things can fall apart when trust is broken, how quickly success can turn into competition, and how important it is to recognize when something no longer aligns with who you are. Because sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that not everything is meant to last. Even the things that once felt perfect, even the things that once brought joy, even the things that once felt like home. But walking away doesn't mean failure. Sometimes it's the beginning of something better. And as Melody continues her journey, one thing is clear: her story isn't over. If anything, it's just getting started, because now she's no longer part of someone else's narrative. She's creating her own.